They say some stories end where they were always meant to. But mine? It didn't end when I turned my back on her. It began. I wasn't the type you'd expect beside someone like Ilara Winthrop, the poised, golden-haired heiress of a corporate empire spanning continents. I was the quiet kind, a man of little noise and even less history. But for 2 years, she made me feel like the center of her world, until he came back. Her first love. The man with history, charm, and every first memory I could never compete with. I didn't cause a scene. Didn't demand explanations or beg for closure. I just packed a small bag, left the keys on the marble counter, and walked out of her life like a gentleman. No screaming. No resentment. Just silence and a farewell note folded in thirds. I traveled. Disappeared into cities where her name meant nothing. Burned my emotions like old letters. I wasn't running, not exactly. Just letting the world blur her edges. But Ilara doesn't believe in unfinished things. 7 countries. That's how far she chased me. Across borders and languages, through airports and winding alleys. A woman raised in penthouses now walking foreign roads in search of the man who walked away. When I saw her again, standing in the rain with my name on her lips and desperation in her eyes, I realized something. She wasn't here for forgiveness. She was here to rewrite the ending. You don't forget the first time you meet someone like Ilara Winthrop. She didn't walk into the room she entered like a headline. I was working as a restoration artist at a gallery in Florence, restoring 17th century paintings with quiet devotion, when she wandered in, heels clicking like punctuation, asking me if the past could be made beautiful again. I looked up and that was it. Ilara was unlike anyone I'd ever known. The kind of woman who spoke 5 languages but preferred silence. The kind who wore diamonds but reached for street food. Heiress to the Winthrop fortune. Yes, but more than that. She was a contradiction wrapped in silk, elegant yet impulsive, fragile yet calculating. And despite her world of luxury, she was drawn to the ruin. Maybe that's why she was drawn to me. I, Cassian Vale, was a man of cracks. My childhood was a closed file. Orphans rarely get prologues. I built my life with precision. No attachments, no illusions. Just art, travel, and a preference for solitude. But Ilara saw me through me, and somehow that made all the difference. We spent 2 years in what I can only describe as a parallel reality. She stayed in Florence under the guise of reconnecting with her creative roots, but really she was escaping. Her family, her name, her past, and I was her quiet, hidden rebellion. But then he came back. Rowan Albrecht. Ilara's first love. A storm in tailored suits. He had left years ago, rumors said, for some noble, heartbreaking reason. When she spoke of him, it was always in fragments. I didn't press. Maybe I should have. Maybe I would have seen the signs. His return was the earthquake that cracked everything open. He didn't even need to ask her to choose. She looked at him once and I saw the past reclaim her. I saw the guilt bloom in her eyes, and I knew. I didn't wait for betrayal. I preempted it. I didn't confront. I was excited. It wasn't weakness, it was dignity. Or so I told myself. I left Florence that night. Left her. Left the only thing that had ever felt like home. Because real love shouldn't have to compete with ghosts. But now she's back. And she's not here with apologies. She's here with intent. It was in Marrakesh that she found me. I had been living in the shadows of color-painting walls in the Medina for cash, blending into the crowds like I belonged. It had been 6 months since Florence. 6 months of radio silence, of pretending I hadn't watched her name trend in international tabloids alongside Rowan's The Heiress and her lost flame rekindled. So when the door to my flat creaked open that evening, I expected my landlord. Not Ilara. She stood there, backlit by the orange sun, hair tangled, scarf slipping off her shoulder, eyes locked on me like I was the only thing tethering her to the ground. Cassian, she breathed. No anger. No pretense. Just breathless disbelief. I finally found you. My instinct was to shut the door. Not out of cruelty, out of survival. But I couldn't move. I didn't choose him, she said before I could speak. You walked away before I could tell you. That hit harder than it should have. You didn't have to say it. Your eyes made the choice for you. She stepped in, eyes glassy. I froze. I didn't expect him to come back, but I never chose him. I never wanted. Her voice cracked. You didn't give me a chance. I gave you 2 years, I replied, quieter than I meant. That was when she dropped the bomb. He proposed. I said no. I looked up, stunned. I left everything behind, she whispered. I've been to Vienna, Prague, Istanbul looking for you. And now I'm here. Not to fix the past, but to start again, if you'll let me. The moment hummed between us like a pulled thread. I could have cut it clean, but I didn't, because something in me still burned. That was the moment I knew I hadn't walked away far enough. I didn't let her stay the night. Not out of bitterness, but because I knew that if she stepped across that threshold, she'd bring more than just a suitcase. She'd bring every unresolved emotion, every unspoken word, every question I'd forced into silence. Still, the next morning, she was waiting outside the cafe where I worked weekends. She sat at the farthest table, sunglasses shielding her face, hands wrapped around a mint tea she didn't drink. She wasn't leaving. I tried to pretend she didn't exist for a week. But Ilara wasn't someone you could ignore. She didn't shout or demand. She was where she was patient. Every morning, she'd be there, sometimes reading, sometimes staring at the city like it might confess where I'd been hiding. Always waiting. Until one day she followed me to the rooftop where I went to paint after hours. I won't stay long, she said. Just let me see the colors you hide from the world. Against my better judgment, I let her climb the rusted stairs. She stood behind me in silence as I worked on a canvas I'd started months ago. It was abstract stormy shades clashing in what looked like chaos to anyone else. To me, it was Florence, her perfume on my shirt, her cold side of the bed, the hollowed-out version of myself I'd left behind. When I stopped, I expected commentary, analysis. Instead, she whispered, "You haven't painted anything beautiful since you left me." I turned. "You assume I still can." "I don't assume," she said. "I believe." That night, I let her stay. But it wasn't reconciliation. Not yet. It was close. A shared ache neither of us could seem to amputate. The days blurred. She started helping around the flat, cooking half-burnt couscous, replacing the cracked light bulbs. She learned how to barter at the souks in broken Arabic and started sketching again flowers. Mostly, but always wilting ones. We never talked about rowing. Not directly, but sometimes she'd pause mid-sentence and say something like, "You never asked me why I froze." Or, "Do you know what it feels like to be haunted by a ghost you never buried?" And I'd respond with silence. Because yes, I knew exactly what that felt like. But cracks began to show. One morning, I found her on my phone scrolling through my messages. She didn't deny it. "I thought you might be seeing someone," she said. I stared at her. "That's rich, coming from you." She didn't flinch. I deserved that. It wasn't just jealousy. It was possession. She looked at me the way someone looks at something they almost lost and now can't risk letting go. It wasn't love knot in its purest form. It was fear dressed as devotion. Still, there were moments. Fragile ones. She'd hum when folding my clothes. She'd rest her head on my shoulder while I read. She'd trace the lines of my palm like they were maps back to herself. One night, she showed me a ring. Not on her finger. In a velvet box. Rowan's ring. "I carried it for weeks," she confessed. Not because I wanted to accept it, because I needed to remember why I said no. I took the box, dropped it in the trash. We didn't speak again that night. I began to wonder, was she really back for me or was she just running from him? Sometimes, I'd catch her staring out the window too long, like she expected Rowan to appear. Or worse, like she missed the idea of being wanted by 2 men at once. And I got help, I still wanted her. Even knowing she wasn't entirely mine. Even knowing love, for her, might always be a battlefield where someone had to bleed to feel alive. One night, after a festival, we kissed again. It wasn't soft. It wasn't gentle. He was bruising and breathless and messy with years of pent-up longing. She whispered against my skin, "Don't leave me again." And I didn't say it aloud, but I was already afraid I might have to. Because something in her had changed. Or maybe something in me had. We were orbiting something dangerous, and we both knew gravity wouldn't hold forever. It happened on a Tuesday. The kind of quiet, sun-drenched day that tricks you into thinking everything's finally steady. Hilara had gone to the market alone, something she'd grown proud of, navigating with her charm and half-remembered phrases. I stayed behind, working on a new piece, one that, for the first time, didn't look like pain. When I heard the knock, I didn't expect anything strange. Until I opened the door. Rowing. Same chiseled composure. Same ocean blue stare. Except this time, it wasn't arrogant, it was hollow. "I'm not here to fight," he said, "just to tell you something she won't." I didn't let him in. He didn't ask to be. "She didn't leave me," he said. I left her. I stared. She begged me to stay. Told me she didn't love you, not really. That it was just confusion. A rebound that got too deep. I closed the door in his face. But the crack had already split me open. That night, I didn't say anything. I just watched her. The way she smiled at the stew she'd oversalted. The way she reached for my hand as if it was the most natural thing in the world. I should have asked her. Confronted her. But a darker instinct took root. I wanted to know who she really was. The woman who crossed 7 countries for me, or the one who clung to him while claiming I was just the detour? And most terrifying of all, what if both were true? That night, I didn't sleep. I just listened. To her breathing. To the way she whispered my name in her sleep like it was both a prayer and a curse. And for the first time I realized I wasn't sure I was the one being chased. Maybe I was the one being hunted. The next morning, I watched her brush her hair by the window, humming some half-forgotten lullaby. She wore my shirt. The sleeves are too long, the hem hitting her thighs like a memory. I wanted to believe her. God, I did. But his voice kept echoing. She told me it was confusing, that it got too deep. I told myself Rowan lied. Twisted things. But if that were true, why hadn't she told me he came to Marrakesh? So I tested her. "Did anything strange happen yesterday?" I asked over breakfast, feigning nonchalance. She blinked, then smiled. "Just the usual chaos at the spice stalls." "Why?" "Nothing," I lied. But everything had shifted. Trust is a strange thing. It doesn't snap. It frays slowly, invisibly. You barely notice until one morning you wake up and realize you're choking on the threads. Hilara noticed. "You've changed," she said that evening as we cleaned up dinner. "You flinch when I touch you." "I don't flinch," I said. "You retreat." I didn't respond. I didn't have to. She stopped drying the plates. "Did someone talk to you?" It wasn't a question. It was a confession. I faced her. Rowan came. She went still. "And?" "He said you begged him not to leave. Said you told him I was mistaken." Her voice was nice. "And you believed him?" "I believed your silence." She stepped toward me, but I held up a hand. "Why didn't you tell me he came here?" She swallowed. "Because I knew you'd look at me like you are right now. Like I'm a stranger. Maybe you are." Her expression cracked. "I chased you across 7 countries, Cassian. Slept in hostels. Got sick in Cairo. Lost my passport in Budapest. You think that was a performance? I think maybe you didn't chase me. Maybe you ran from the guilt." She slapped me. Not hard. Just sharp enough to sting. "I made a mistake," she said through gritted teeth. "One moment of confusion, yes. But I chose you. Every day after that, I chose you. But you didn't tell me. You let me walk away thinking I was second best." Tears welled in her eyes. Because I was ashamed. Because I hated myself for hesitating. I didn't speak. "Do you still love me?" she asked, desperate now. "Or are you just waiting to punish me?" That question lingered between us for days. I began to notice the cracks in her hairline fractures running through her composure. She'd cry in the shower, then emerge smiling. She'd offer to cook, then burn everything. She began sketching obsessively pages and pages of faceless men. Every one of them looked like me. One night, I found her reading an old letter. Her hands were shaking. "What's that?" I asked. She tried to hide it, but I took it. It was my letter. The one I'd left in Florence. I'd forgotten what I wrote, just raw words and folded grief. She'd kept it all this time. The edges were soft, the ink slightly smudged. "I read it every night after you left," she whispered. "I memorized it, every line, even the part where you said, 'Some things break quietly, but the silence is permanent.'" I turned away. "Then why didn't you fight for me then?" "Because I was still learning how to fight for myself." Her honesty disarmed me. I didn't know if it was the truth or manipulation, but it was working. The more I tried to hate her, the more I remembered. Our first kiss on the Arno Bridge. Her laughter echoed in empty museums. The way she'd fall asleep with her head on my chest like she was anchoring herself to me. And yet, underneath it all, a slow dread was growing. She needed me too much. Love should be freedom, not oxygen. But to Ilara, I had become a lifeline, and lifelines snap when pulled too tight. I tried to create distance. I spent more hours outside, took on extra shifts, but she filled the space faster than I could build it. One afternoon, I came home to find the walls covered. She had hung all her sketches, dozens of them. Every single one is a version of me. Some were smiling, some were crying. One with a knife in his chest. "What is this?" I asked, stunned. Her eyes shone. "A gallery. For the man who left but never really did. Ilara, this isn't healthy." She smiled, soft and brittle. "Neither was losing you." I realized then she hadn't come back for love. Not entirely. She'd come back to prove she could undo abandonment. Rewrite the moment I walked away. Regain power. And I had let her. We weren't in love anymore. We were inside a loop. Revenge disguised as redemption. Obsession disguised as apology. That night, as she curled against me in bed, whispering stories from her past, I didn't hold her back. I watched the ceiling, wide-eyed. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't know if I was in a love story or a psychological trap, and I didn't know which scared me more. I should have left the moment I saw the sketch. It was new, still damp, with ink taped to the bedroom wall above our bed like some twisted shrine. I hadn't noticed it before. In the drawing, I lay sleeping while Ilara stood above me with a pair of scissors poised over my chest. Her face calm, serene, almost loving. "Ilara," I said quietly, unable to take my eyes off it. "What is this?" She walked out of the bathroom, a towel wrapped around her. Her wet hair clung to her shoulders like ivy. "A piece," she said. "An interpretation." "Of what?" "Trust," she whispered, as if the word was sacred. "And control." My heart thudded. "Why are you drawing things like this?" She tilted her head, eyes wide. "It's art, Cassian. You of all people should understand that. We process pain through beauty." "That's not beauty," I said. "That's violence." She crossed the room in 3 steps and pulled the drawing off the wall. "Fine. I'll burn it." "That's not the point," I snapped. "Do you even hear yourself?" Silence. "Then, you're scared of me." I didn't answer. The silence did that for me. A strange kind of joy flickered in her eyes. "Good. Ilara, you left me," she said, voice sharp. "You abandoned me, and now you flinch when I breathe too close. You let me leave." I shouted, louder than I meant. "You stood there and watched me go like I was nothing. I was broken," she screamed. "And I still chased you across continents. I bled for you. You think I crossed 7 countries just to be treated like I'm a disease?" "I think," I said slowly, voice shaking. "You didn't come for love. You came to prove you could win. You came to reclaim what you lost, not who you loved." Her eyes went cold. "You think I don't know?" I continued, breath heavy. That whole thing finding me, staying, sketching your obsession, it's not about us. It's about control. She laughed, quiet. Cruel. And what about you, Cassian? You think you're innocent? You let me crawl back to you, gave me just enough hope to keep me here. You painted your pain on walls and made me sleep beneath it. I never asked you to stay. Ah. No, she said. You made me beg to. That cut deeper than it should have. Ilara, whatever this is, it isn't love anymore. She stepped back, her expression unreadable. Then tell me to go. I stared at her. Say it, I told myself. Say it. But my mouth betrayed me. My heart hesitated. Because part of me still remembered the girl in Florence. The one who kissed me at the Uffizi and made me believe I was someone worth chasing. Ilara, I said softly. And that was all the answer she needed. She walked to the dresser, pulled out the envelope I didn't know she kept. Inside were 2 one-way plane tickets. Marrakesh to Florence. You were always going to return, she said. You just wanted me to beg you for it. I don't want to go back, I lied. You already have, she said. She placed 1 ticket on the bed. Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. And if I don't show up? She smiled wide, sad, furious. Then we finally know how this story ends. That night, she didn't touch me. Didn't speak. Just lay on the edge of the bed, facing the wall. I watched her, wondering how love could become this to you people too entangled to let go, too wounded to hold on. When I finally slept, I dreamed of scissors and silence. The next morning, the sun rose, slowly burning the sky in amber, and rose like the world couldn't decide between beauty and mourning. I sat at the edge of the bed, holding the plane ticket. 6 a.m. Marrakesh Manara Airport. I didn't look at her. She was already up, dressed in a linen coat, eyes hollow from a night without rest. Her suitcase sat by the door. Neat. Ready. Hopeful. Ilara, I said. She didn't turn. Ilara. I know, she said quietly. You're not coming. I swallowed hard. I can't. She nodded slowly. Then turned, finally meeting my eyes. Is it because you don't love me? Or because you do, and that scares you more? I don't know anymore, I said honestly. She smiled, but it was paper thin. You're afraid that if we go back, we'll become who we were again. No, I said. I'm afraid we never stopped. She crossed the room and placed her hand over my chest. Then where does it end, Cassian? I looked at her. Really looked. And I saw not the heiress, not the obsessive lover, not the girl who crossed 7 countries to reclaim me. I saw a mirror, a reflection of everything I hadn't healed. It ends here, I whispered. A long silence followed. Then, softly, she said, You always leave me quietly. It's the only way I know how. Her fingers lingered at my collarbone for one last second. Then she stepped back, picked up her bag. I walked to the door, paused. Promise me, she said without turning around. Don't paint me into anything more beautiful than I was. I didn't reply. And then she was gone. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. I stood in the stillness she left behind, watching the wind stir the sketches on the wall. One fell, face down, the tape giving way. I left it there. In the days that followed, I didn't paint. I didn't speak much. But I started to breathe again, not in gulps, but in slow, cautious rhythms. She left her ghost, of course. In the mug she washed. In the empty chair at the cafe. In the tiny, perfect footprint of her presence in my life. But ghosts don't chase. Only the living do. And I was done being hunted by a love that needed me to bleed. Florence is still far off. Maybe I'll go back someday. Or maybe I'll stay here, where memory doesn't speak the language. What I do know is this. Love isn't always redemption. Sometimes, love is a wound you carry with grace. And sometimes, the most faithful goodbye you can give is the one where you don't turn around. They say the way someone leaves tells you everything about how they loved you. I used to think the story ended when I walked away from her in Florence. I told myself I was doing the noble thing, leaving with grace, not bitterness. That silence was dignity, but now I know better. Silence can be its own cruelty. And sometimes, love doesn't end when one person walks away, it ends when both finally stop trying to rewrite it. She crossed 7 countries to find me. Not because she wanted to begin again, but because she couldn't stand a version of herself that had been left. She needed me to unchoose the ending. To pretend her hesitation hadn't echoed louder than any answer ever could. And I let her back in, because some part of me still believed we were worth something. That love, if chased far enough, could become true again. But love built on fear, on regret, on the refusal to let go isn't love. It's survival. It's an obsession. And in the end, it's not about who you find. It's about what you become in the finding. I still dream of her sometimes. Her laugh in the Florence rain. The way she looked at paintings like they owed her answers. The sound of her voice whispering my name like a confession. But I no longer feel the urge to chase those echoes. I let them pass. Because this story isn't about who left who. It's about what leaving teaches you, that the person who walks away first isn't always the one who gives up. Sometimes, they're just the first to understand that love, real love, should never have to cross oceans to be enough.